I love computers. I'm a little bit ashamed to admit it, but growing up, I probably spent more time with computers than I did with my parents. In my early years, this fascination has largely been driven by my infatuation with the internet. So I was extremely surprised when I realized that many online communities have settled on an extremely anti AI stance. I don't judge, but it made me wonder, how can something so promising and so inevitable cause such bitter outrage? And now I just think that most people don't appreciate the magnitude of the wave that we are riding right now. After all, AI and machine learning scientists have been at it for decades. So, what's so special about this moment in history? Remember Siri? Computers were so dumb. We had no idea how to make a machine that understands something. But we have figured it out. We no longer need to make computers that understand. Instead, we're building computers that learn. And turns out that is a recipe for intelligence. You just push more information through a more powerful computer, and you get a machine that learns to be more intelligent. For decades, this has not been obvious, and now it's undeniable. And we call this relationship the scaling laws. And this discovery, the discovery of AI scaling laws, has been enabled by decades of making computers more powerful. I will grossly oversimplify here, but for many, many years, the power of a microchip, the tiny silicon rock at the heart of a computer, has been doubling every 19 months. It's a relationship known as the Moore's law. And it is an exponential that has profoundly impacted our lives. Digital calculator, the moon landing, GPS, personal computer, dot-com boom, the internet, social media, YouTube, all of it enabled by the exponential increase in the power we're stuffing inside tiny silicon stones. But the craziest part is that with AI, we have kind of taught those stones to think. And I think it is very useful to keep this exponential as a point of reference when we talk about thinking stones, because the scaling laws I mentioned before, they also predict, and I'm also oversimplifying here, but they kind of predict an exponential increase in AI capabilities. So for many years, we have seen AI systems getting twice as capable every 6 months. And actually, since I started preparing this talk, this doubling speed has increased to just 4 months. And to put things into the perspective, if the Moore's law was doubling every 4 months instead of every 19 months, we would have had the first iPhone in the middle of 1950s. So this is absolutely wild. The line does not just go up, but the speed of acceleration is increasing, so it keeps going up faster. So if things went on just like this, maybe we could have had something like iPhone 15 or even iPhone 20 for the moon landing, which is incredibly early. But how do the effects of this acceleration look today? Steve Jobs described personal computer as a bicycle for the mind. But I believe that only today, with modern AI systems, they finally deliver on this promise. If you can imagine something, you can make significant progress towards it instantly. Today, we even have the first ever single-person billion-dollar company, of course, enabled by artificial intelligence. But the ultimate application of intelligence, I believe, is understanding the world. It's science. And that is the ultimate application. This is the ultimate promise of AI. Because accelerating science means accelerating everything. And we already see this happening. To develop COVID vaccine, scientists had to figure out the shape of a very specific protein on the virus. It took weeks of very focused effort. So the problem of solving protein structures is very important and very hard. It took humanity 50 years to solve around 200,000 proteins. And then a couple of years ago, AI system called AlphaFold took just 1 month to solve 200 million proteins. That is 1,000 times increase, and it catapulted us into an entirely new era of biological research. And that is just the beginning. In the limit, the promise of AI is the perfect solutions to all our desires. The end of disease, elimination of scarcity itself, and radical life extension. But I'm sorry to disappoint you. There is no such thing as free lunch. Because the road to hell is usually paved with the best intentions. The resource constraints are very real. And I don't mean the water usage here. It has largely been a misconception. But people often ask me, hey, Rammi, isn't AI a bubble? And of course it's a bubble. Bubbles are an instrument that allow us to overspend on the infrastructure that might not make perfect sense for a single actor, but is actually useful for the civilization. You know what else was a bubble? Railways. At the peak of the railway mania, an equivalent of half of the United Kingdom GDP was invested in railway build-outs. It was a bubble. It did eventually burst, but it left behind infrastructure useful for generations. The same happened with the dot-com boom. It left behind the undersea networking cables that we're still using today to power up our internet-fueled economies. So, to cut the long story short, yes, we're in a bubble, we cannot scale electricity forever, resource constraints are real, but they all pale in comparison with the most apocalyptic scenarios enabled by truly powerful AI. And I'm talking here about catastrophic misalignment. It's very easy to imagine a rogue AI exterminating humanity, thanks to Hollywood mostly, but I'm a lot more worried about something else. I'm sure most of us here in this room understand very well the threat of a tyrannical government. Now imagine an AI-powered super dictatorship. If we allow one to emerge, it will leave people forever powerless. A big brother, always watching and never forgetting, capturing minds and breaking dissent at the level of a single thought. That's just absolutely horrifying. And seeing all of this, it's easy to become hopeless. But if we give in to doom, or worse, ignore the promise of AI completely, the humanity will never muster enough resources, ingenuity, and sheer elbow grease required to get it right. It will not be easy, and the success is not guaranteed. But we must put in the effort to make it go right, because someone else is definitely putting in the effort to make it go wrong. Moreover, I believe the upside is so unimaginably gigantic, the promise is so bright, we simply must accelerate it. I would be so pissed if I die from something and then they invent the cure the next day. So every second of delay is a moral failure, and we all share a moral obligation to see it through. But what if we fail? What if a marathon to the Renaissance is just a sprint to war, famine, and death? My hopeful and maybe naively optimistic answer is that it doesn't matter. And that what truly matters is that the stones can think now, and that the line goes up. And it keeps going up faster and faster, and it's taken us all on a civilizational ride, and it's scary. It's natural to be terrified, And I'm terrified too. But we are brilliant, resourceful, and resilient. We will figure this out. Thank you.